Hi, you guys, it's Elizabeth. Welcome to the Sun into Gemini edition of Elizabeth's Oracle, the video edition of the newsletter. The Sun is moving into the mutable, chatty air sign of Gemini. We are going to talk about Gemini, the end of the Mercury retrograde, and two really important trends that are starting this cycle. One is Saturn moving back into Scorpio for the final bit of Scorpio for the next 29 years. That's a pretty big trend. And then also the planet Venus is moving into Leo for our 4-month stay. And if you want to find out about that, stay tuned. Here are the start times, and thank you for watching. Okay, so let's talk about Gemini, because Gemini is very talkative. This is an air sign, which means it does deal with communication, technology, and all the other fabulous things on this list here. And when the Sun moves into Gemini, we are going to have Mercury in Gemini, Mars in Gemini, and some of those other planets in mutable signs, which I talked to you about on the last video. But for now, we're going to concentrate on the Gemini aspect. So Mercury is one of the planets that's now in Gemini, and that is a planet that is moving retrograde. For those of you who want to know, when's it going to end? June 11th. June 11th, the planet of Mercury will station and then start moving direct. So we will be out of the retrograde and out of the shadow by the 20th of June. So when we talk about Gemini, it is an air sign and it is mutable. Mutable means very flexible. So this is where we have a lot of mental agility. When we're very flexible in our thinking, we're able to look at things from a lot of different ways. We also seek out a lot of information. This is a great cycle for research, learning, sharing, teaching, communicating, all those good things. All of that falls under the sign of Gemini. It is the third of our 12 signs. So if we think of Aries as beginning the cycle, coming into being, Taurus getting into our bodies and kind of being here, Gemini, the third sign of evolution, would be about exploring that world. So this is kind of heightened curiosity. With Mars there, we may feel an even stronger drive to be getting out there to explore new things. And then, with the Mercury thing, while it's retrograde, yeah, you may have to go back over some things, redo some things, rewrites, edits, all those things are really good things to do during a Mercury retrograde. But you could also discover hidden information. So that's a very positive aspect of a Mercury retrograde. It's also good for travel. And also, again, that flexibility with your plans and with things, so that if it does any of the things that's stereotyped to do, meaning the Mercury retrograde, you're good. You kind of have plan B, C, and if you're really into the Gemini spirit, and you're all over the alphabet. So those are just a few of the qualities of Gemini. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the planet Venus, which is where we find pleasure and beauty, moving into the very I'm so prejudiced here because I'm a Leo, so I'm all about this trend. Okay, so Leo is about being theatrical, putting on the show, getting out there, being expressive. So it's everyone's expression. You don't have to be a Leo to enjoy this trend. So, where do we find the most joy, beauty, passion in expression? This is a huge trend, and it's going to be in effect for more or less 4 months. On the 5th of June, Venus moves into Leo. Now, we talked about that shadow thing. I taught you guys about that in the Sun into Aquarius video. So you may want to go back and understand the shadow principle, because I don't want to throw too much at you. But on July 25th, Venus will go retrograde until September 6th. So it will be going retrograde from 0 degrees of Virgo all the way back to 14 degrees of Leo by September 6th. So we pay attention to the first time that Venus hits that 14 degrees of Leo, and that's going to be on the 21st of June. So, from the 5th of June to the 21st, we just kind of want to get our feet wet in this trend and see what it feels like and how it's working with those other Gemini planets. This is a time, to get out there, whatever it is you do. Be more creative, be more expressive, start having fun with it. From the more woo-woo or spiritual side of it, Leo rules the heart, and Leo is also the planet that rules the spine. So if we think about, we're getting ready for this big trend of Venus going retrograde in late July, then we're going over the heart chakra. So like, where in your love life, Venus is love, what things in the relationship sector of your life, what could be improved upon, what could you make better? Because then, you guys have gotten used to all this retrograde. So you know what they do, where you review and revise and all that good stuff. But for the first part of this trend, while the sun's going through Gemini, I just want you guys to experiment, get your feet wet in this, Venus and Leo thing, and see, what does that feel like? Are you rocking the hair? Is it something superficial like that? Like me? Or are you, is there some creative endeavor or project that you're really wanting to put your heart into, and then you're finding and meeting people who support that and who want you to work and collaborate with them. So it has all kinds of expressions, all kinds of possibilities. Just notice what it's bringing into your life, as we start out gently in this month. Of course, we'll talk about it more in the Sun into Cancer edition of the videos. But just see what this, try it on. That's what I'm saying. Thanks. Okay, big trend, totally different energy. That's also starting during the cycle, but late during the cycle. This trend doesn't start until the 14th of June, but it is a really important one to give you guys a heads up about and for us to talk about. Saturn is moving back into Scorpio. We know that it's retrograde right now in Sagittarius, and it will be for a lot of this cycle. And here are the dates for some of the mutable issues that will come up, or mutable trends, squares, and oppositions. Saturn, of course, being in Sag, will oppose Mars and the planets in Gemini, and it's going to, it's preparing for that big square with Neptune later in the year. But we talked about that a bit in the last video, and of course we'll cover that later. But I do want you to think about Saturn, because it is going back into Scorpio. Saturn is the disciplinarian of the planets. It could be law enforcement. It could be taking a really hard class and, having to work for every bit of that. It could be going back to the gym and working on yourself and really having to stay strict with that regimen. In Scorpio, it's about transformation. And I want you guys to think about when Saturn first moved through Scorpio. This is anywhere from October 2012 until this past December. So this little retrograde period that we're going to have from June 14th until September 17th is the last of it. It's the last of the cleanup of any of that stuff that was going on in your life. Maybe a chance to redo something or finish up something for good, bring a project to completion, or, again, revisit. It's a retrograde. We redo things. Anything with re goes under that category. So Saturn comes back into Scorpio on the 14th of June. It does station on August 2nd, meaning it stops moving backwards. It'll be, I believe, at 28 degrees of Scorpio. Then it'll start moving forward again. It's got to work through those late intensive degrees of Scorpio. Those are the strongest Scorpio elements. So you Scorpios may just get one more, dose of stuff that's got to be cleaned up or cleaned out, that whole kind of stuff. But for everybody, I just say, look in your chart, see where your Saturn is, or see how Saturn affects your sun as it goes through the different signs, both into Scorpio and then later on back into Sagittarius. And maybe when it gets back into Sagittarius in September, I'll talk about all the houses that it affects differently for each sign. So a little long to go into on this video. But yeah, pay attention to this trend. You're going to be basically having from mid-June to mid-September to finish any unfinished business that had happened from 2012 to the end of 2014. Okay? Okay, so we're booking right along in this video. It must be the Gemini thing. I'm just very chatty today. Like, and I haven't even had a lot of coffee. So, yeah, chatty communication. So yeah, I got the Gemini thing going so much I'm knocking the mic around. Anyways, so you guys, I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Please come over to visit the site if you would like. There's a free newsletter that comes out every month. I also do radio shows with some of my friends, and links are here in the box, so check those out. You can get to my website and see a lot of old information, old articles, but just because it might be relevant, you might want to go back to October 2012 and see what I was writing about, what the trends and when that whole Scorpio thing started. If you're new to the site, I do have this offer for 5 free minutes with your first order. You do have to order to get the 5 free minutes. And otherwise, I do charts. I have all the software. So if you'd like a reading or like to know more about your chart, we can do a chart for you during your reading. And I can send you a report with all of where your planets are, what that means, and we can work with my intuitive ability to see sort of what's popping, what are the trends, not only this month, but overall in 2015, and, how all that's working for you and can work for you. So thank you again for watching. I'm Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. I'm wishing you a very happy and social cycle. Thank you.